morning, everyone. Welcome to Spill the Coffee. Really excited to have our guest speaker, Angie Drinic, and this fantastic presentation on the psychology of patients and team after COVID-19. So we're going to give the controls to Angie. Good morning, Angie.
Good morning, everybody. Hi, so I'm Angie Drinic, and I am the founder of DentCents. And what I'm going to talk about today is the psychology of patient and team after COVID-19. And the reason that I wanted to touch on this is because so many patients right now are, struggling. There's team members that are struggling, and it's going to be more than just something that happened. We have a situation in which maybe some grandparents have gone through. They've lived through the pandemic before when they had the Spanish flu, but we have a lot of generations now that have never seen it before. And I apologize for the ringing. I can't do anything about that. There's ringing in the background. And so one of the things that we want to be cognitive of, we want to be cognitive of what patients are going through, that it's not just return to normal, that everybody is going through their own struggles. And we have to be empathetic. We have to come in a situation in which we are a support system. And that while we're being that support system and lending an ear to what our patients are going through and what our teams are going through is going to be the key to creating stable relationships for the future. So let's get started. So these are the stages of grief. And the stages of grief start at shock. I think that I kind of skipped that one. I wasn't as shocked when it happened. I actually jumped right over to denial. So, but we'll get into that one. So but a lot of people didn't. A lot of people did go into shock. They didn't know what to do. They're paralyzed. They couldn't believe it was happening, especially for the generations, like I said, the younger generations that have never gone through things like this. One of the things that I share with a lot of people is the fact that my husband is from Bosnia. And my husband came to Canada escaping the war in Yugoslavia at that time. And what he said to me to comfort me was he said that there were times that they had to go to the supermarket and they had to go on a zigzag. Anytime they went out of the house, they had to go on a zigzag pattern. And when he told me that, I kind of, gave him a funny look. I didn't understand. What do you mean a zigzag pattern? Why? And he said, because there were sharpshooters everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't even imagine that. I can't imagine, a child or anybody going through that. He said, yeah, it happened all the time. Sometimes you would be going to the local store to buy milk and you would see somebody shot in front of you or behind you. So that's why you would have to be very fast at, running in a zigzag pattern. And I thought to myself, well, why don't you just go to the supermarket once a month like, we do? And he pointed out that in Europe, like in Mexico, which is where I'm from, we go every day. We go every day for the fresh fruits, for the fresh milk, for the fresh everything. And therefore, and also in most of Europe and in some parts of Mexico, we have small refrigerators. Because of that, we don't, refrigerate a lot of things. We're very used to the fresh stuff. So they had to go constantly. So he says, we get used to everything. And eventually we will get used to the new normal. So I think that that's one of the things that we have to keep in mind. The next one is denial. Like I said, I jumped right over to denial. I was one of those persons, the one that said, oh, everything will be fine. They're exaggerating. This is not, as bad as they're making it out to be. The news, they're blowing it out of proportion. It's not as bad. And, I had all these reasons. More people die from the regular flu until I started getting the facts. And once I got the facts, yes, I definitely went through, my stages of anger, and when I went through my stages of anger, I was, I can't believe, they let this happen. How can the government let this happen? And why are people doing this? And I got angry at the reports of hearing that it was because these people were eating bats. How can they eat bats? You know, I have all these judgments, all these shoulds and musts, and all these negative words that, and fortunately enough, I didn't share them with anybody. I'm sharing them now because, you know, I've moved past that, and it's just for a way of relating. Then bargaining. I went through the bargaining of finding out, you know, well, what about if I just went to the supermarket really quick? Well, do I really have to wear a mask all the time? Do I really, you know, want to wear gloves? Oh my goodness, do I really have to have sanitizer in my purse all the time? So I went through all these, you know, things that I was bargaining in my head of how I can, you know, not have to do or follow the protocol that, you know, seems to be best for everyone. Then I went through depression, like many people have. Fortunately, it was a short bout of it, but I definitely had my pity party. I had my pity party, and my pity party was only one was invited, and that was myself. So I apologize if you didn't get your invitation in the mail, but I was the only invited person to that pity party. And the pity parties, you know, of, oh, poor me, and I can't believe I'm going through this. I can't believe, you know, I have to suffer through the situation. And one thing that really pulled me out of that and made me realize what, you know, how absurd I particularly was being in that moment. And I'm not saying that anybody that's depressed is being absurd. Everybody has, you know, we deal with things on our own timetable. But for me was the fact of thinking, you know, we've all heard the term, we're in this together. And yes, we are all in this together, but we're not all in the same boat. And that's the part where we need to be cognizant of, that not every single team member is in the same boat. Not every single patient is in the same boat. Everybody is having their own issues right now. There may be seniors that already had their partner pass away. They never had children, so they're home, locked up, and they can't get to the supermarket out of fear. So we don't know what's really happening. And unfortunately, in this time, there's a lot of abuse happening, abuse for children, for battered women, because the other person is taking that anger part on them and the depression. Because, you know, in Mexico, we have a saying, we say that I'm not looking for who did it to me, I'm looking for who's going to pay. And I think that's what's happening right now, that, you know, people are looking to see who's going to pay for this, who's going to pay for my anger, for my depression. So, and the last one is testing. When we start testing the waters, we start, you know, kind of slowly coming out, will this work? Will that work? How about if I do it this way? And we had, you know, there's a lot of things that were canceled, a lot of events that a lot of people were going to join, and they had to make them online. And you know what? People are just testing, see what works. And we had over 1,000 people attend that event, yet we don't know that they all actually attended the whole thing. You know, it's easy to just put on a webinar and just walk away and just, you know, and do what you're having to do, and life starts to happen. So it's not the same thing as when you have an audience in front of you and you know that they're actually attentive to what you're saying. So, but we're testing. We're in that, definitely in that stage now. And slowly the last one is acceptance, which I think that's where I'm at. I'm definitely in the stage of acceptance. This is what's happening. This is what, you know, the hand that we have been dealt. And now let's just start finding the best ways to deal with it. So, shock, initial paralyzed at hearing the bad news. So the initial paralysis at hearing the bad news is, I know I heard a lot of people do this. What do we do? I got calls, I got flooded with calls. You know, Angie, what do we do? I had a lot of clients that put their contracts on hold because they were just didn't know what to do. They didn't know which way to move. And I know that a lot of offices, and now the shock part is the part we have to be very careful with. I've seen a lot of dental offices and heard a lot of dental offices being on their Facebook, on their social media signs of big stop or close or all these negative terms that really trigger people. Psychologically, people are triggered by certain words. And when you say we're closed, and then there's nobody manning the phones anymore, they're not getting forwarded to anybody to answer them, you're getting your patients into a state of panic. I always say, if there's a possibility that you can get one of your team members to answer them phone calls during the regular working hours, you're going to come back much stronger. If you sit there, those patients will look for an office that is answering their call. So be cognitive of that. Now, trying to avoid the inevitable. Like I said earlier, I definitely went through that. And many offices are going through that because they're not dealing with what they have to do. I think that a lot of offices or a lot of doctors just kind of left their offices, put their close sign, left, and didn't bother. This is the time where we can be proactive and find ways to move forward. Anger. I heard something the other day, frustrated outpouring of bottled up emotions. I heard something the other day on one of the webinars, and it was very interesting to me. And a doctor actually said this, and I was very shocked to hear it, that a doctor said, well, you know, with all the teams that are right now getting the subsidy from the government, and they're getting payments for the government for basically doing nothing, you know, why would they come back? Why would they come back to work? Why would they, you know, agree to do, take the phone calls, do anything that would be extra for them if they're just getting paid for doing nothing? And I thought to myself, wow, what a lost opportunity. What a lost opportunity, because the doctor's not being empathetic. It's not being empathetic for that team member, because back again, we're not all in the same boat. We don't know what that team member is going through. Not all team members share exactly what their situation at home is. They might have children that they no longer have, you know, childcare for. So it's easy to say, come back to work and start doing auditing or something like that. But for them, they have nobody to take care of their child, and they're not about to bring them into the office where, you know, there might be some contamination. And so we got to be careful. Got to be careful that we don't take out our anger on anybody else. I heard a very disturbing statistics that right now the most calls that are coming through are for battered women and battered children. It really saddens me, because what's happening is a lot of adults are taking it out on the most vulnerable. So, Barney, speaking in vain for a way out. I think that we're all, and I think that it's happened to quite a few offices. I saw a report the other day of a salon. It was in the United States, of a salon that this lady was so desperate financially, that she went ahead and opened her salon. She was taken to court. She was actually arrested, taken to court, and she told the judge that she was going to open no matter what. It didn't matter what kind of fine they were going to give her, that she could not afford to keep closed. So again, we're looking for ways out, which sometimes are not the best. So we need to try our best to keep cool, keep a steady head. Final realization of the inevitable. I think that that's when depression sometimes hits, you know, especially right now, as you know, we were talking here with Dr. John, that we don't know when. We don't know when it's going to open, and we have no idea. And I think that the biggest fear for everybody is fear of the unknown. And because we don't know, because we don't have answers, and this is when we don't know and we don't have answers, unfortunately, that's when we start creating stories in our head. That's when we start creating our own reality of what may be happening and what could happen. And that's when it leaves openings for conspiracy theories, and, you know, they're doing this or they're doing that, or it started here, it started there. So we got to be very careful. Got to be careful that we, you know, just accept and be well informed with facts. And testing, like I said, when we start seeking realistic solutions, as we were talking earlier, what solutions do we have? A lot of people, I was just part of a gathering, an annual gathering for a dental meeting, and it went online, and they had over 1,000 people join. And it's funny because we never thought that that would be possible. We never thought that it would be possible. Now, one thing that we do know was everybody actually listening, because when you're on watching something like this, you can easily walk away. You can walk away, you can stop listening, you can put your camera off or your phone off and just walk away and not really listen to everything. So I think that that's the difference between when you have somebody live. When you have somebody live, you kind of have a little bit more control of what's going on. Finally finding the way to move forward, which is where we are now, I feel that now is that many, hopefully the majority, are at that point where now we start looking for solutions. Great. So this happened. It was horrible. It was inevitable. It was bound to happen because it happened for hundreds of years. And it's time to move forward to the next thing. So, COVID station. This is, I did not come up with this term, by the way. This is somebody else coined. And I apologize for the ringing you hear in the back. So I have no control over that one. We're just going to ignore it. So one thing that I heard in one of the webinars is somebody talking about this. So like I said, I did not coin this thing, but I love it. She talked about COVID station, meaning that everybody is so focused on talking about COVID. What happened with COVID? What happened to me? We talk about our story. We talk about, we're trying to one-up the patient. Oh, yeah, you had a terrible time. Oh, no, my time was way worse. Oh, no, you had that? No, my friend. Oh, yeah. Oh, we're constantly one-upping the patient during these situations. And this is the time to resist. This is the time to resist, to not one-up the patient. Let the patient really, engage with us and tell us their story. Tell us how they dealt with it, and just be an ear for them. Not changing the subject. Try not to change the subject. Let them finish what they have to say, and try to, if it's possible, give all your patients a little extra time in the booking, because trust me, COVID station is going to be there, and there's nothing that we can do to eliminate it. There's nothing that we can do to make it not happen, but what we can do is not make it about us, to make sure that it's about, the patient. And another thing too that is happening a lot is we're promoting fear. We may not be doing it on purpose, but we are promoting fear. How are we promoting fear? We're promoting fear by using trigger words. Trigger words like using the word, I see it on social media, I hear it on the phone, on messages, on voicemails, where it says, we're closed due to the pandemic. And leave us a message and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And that's it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, talk about leaving patients hanging. So what you want to use more positive language. Something in the lines of, we are restructuring our hours, during these times. And please leave us a message and we will get back to you right away. So you have to be in a more positive format, and a more caring, more empathetic. We can't just leave our patients hanging. And please, for the love of God, don't put, things on, and I've seen this everywhere, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. We're closed. Big sign says closed due to pandemic, closed due to the virus. And then they keep putting the pictures of the virus. They've blown it up 1,000 times, and something that's a microbe that is like huge, that's coming to attack you. And they're saying things like, you know, instead of being warm, we're still here for you. We're still here for you. Please leave us a message. If you're going through if there's any way that we can help, please let us know. I have a lot of the doctors. This is the time. Call your patients. By God, you imagine yourself, put yourself in their shoes. Imagine you getting a call from your provider saying, how are you? Don't talk about, you know, how, when they're coming back, when's the next appointment. You're just calling to say, how are you? And talk about, you know, building relationships that will last forever. And, you know, I actually skipped. I went to trigger words. So let's review the trigger words. Stop, virus, don't. If you have in your office, you have places that you don't want patients to go into because, you know, cross-contamination and so forth, look for alternative words like maybe team members only, employees only, you know, let's avoid any type of fearful words, please. So one of the things that
we can't use danger or.
Yes, no, please don't.
Yeah. There's a sign
Yes.
I was thinking of putting on our front doors, see you on the other side. That would be not a good idea. Okay.
It would be funny, but not a good idea because they never know what other side are you talking about. So
we don't know.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
don't know.
We don't know. We don't know what we don't know.
Right.
So it's even a further, right? We don't even know what we don't know that we're totally missing out on. We're finding out every day new information. So Dr. Dean Ornish created a program for reversing heart disease. And what he did is that he collaborated with the University of Southern California and other leading academic institutions. He conducted a series of research studies showing that changes in diet and lifestyle can make a powerful difference in our health and well-being. How quickly these changes may occur and how dynamic these mechanisms can be is the key to the permanent change. Now, what he did also, he was also given a study by Mutual of Omaha. And Mutual of Omaha, what they wanted to do is they wanted a study to find out how many people that actually had heart surgery were back on the table again. And he found that it was astronomical, that it was like 8 in 10 people that had heart surgery were coming back to the table. And he's like, what the heck? Why aren't these people, how is it that this didn't create a change in their life? Didn't it scare them? What is going on? So what he did is as he was researching, he started finding out myths. What were the myths of change? What is it that really produced long-lasting change in people? And the first thing that he started going through the things that didn't create long-lasting change so that he didn't keep repeating. So one of them was crisis. Crisis did not create change. Crisis, and the example is that when you're going through a crisis, and we hear it in drug addicts, we hear it in people that go bankrupt more than one, they go bankrupt a couple times, so they go into crisis mode, yet they go right back into the same pattern. So crisis is not a way that is actually changing. So when we're talking to patients or our team members about changing their attitudes, about changing the way that they're handling the coming back and avoiding the COVID-sation, crisis is not it. So, you know, the telling them, threatening them that they're going to get fired if they don't comply doesn't create any change. Next, the next myth about change, fear. Now, this is one of my favorites. One of my favorites because my husband is a smoker, and I have tried everything. I have put the fear in God to him, and it's done absolutely nothing. Nothing. He just continued, and we see it in you know, all these commercials where you see the person talking through their esophagus, and that doesn't create change. So another myth for change, facts. You know, we sit there, we talk to the patients, we tell them why they need to change their habits, they need to floss, why they need to stop doing this. We give them all the facts. Unfortunately, facts don't change people as well. And again, back to the smoking. If you see the pack of cigarettes, it tells you a lot of facts. And each pack shows you pictures of things. We all know the research behind that, yet facts are not changing, are not a reason for people to change. So we can change. Can we change? We can't change old habits is one of the myths as well. We always think that we cannot change old habits. We first make our habits and then our habits make us, is what John Dryden said a long time ago. But is it true? Is there a way to actually make real change? The keys to real change. Here are some of the keys. We live the way we do because it works for us. So anything we do is because it's working. A lot of times, when you see people, and I know that we've all, met somebody that's dating somebody or is in a relationship that's really bad. You're like, why are you in that relationship? Why is it that you continue? There's no children. There's no reason to be there. And the reason they're getting a payoff, there's always a payoff for something. There's always a payoff for the reason that you're doing or behaving in a certain way. For them, the payoff is the empathy, the compassion from people, the people feeling sorry for them. So it's really important that we know what is our payoff for being where we are and that payoff for your patients. So what rules us? What really truly rules a lot of us as human beings is emotion. And there's different laws of emotion, and I don't have 2-3 hours to go through it, but that's one of the things that, most of our seminars are about, is talking about the law of emotions and the law of human behavior. So what we're going to talk about a bit is because the emotions are something that's very important, and we want to deal with not only our patients' emotions, but our team's emotions. So I'm sure that many of you have read the book, The 5 Languages of Love by Gary Chapman. The 5 languages are as follows, and I'm not following exactly because some of them are more intimate, and we don't want to be intimate with our team members or our patients. So we've changed it a little bit of it. So the first one would be here. Many people react or respond to being heard when they want to hear words of praise. They want to hear things that, they want to know that they're loved, that they're important, that they're special, that they're unique, that they're valuable, that they're great. So, that particular person really is motivated by that. And so is as much as the patient, as a team member. So it's important to find out, is this patient that I have in front of me motivated by words of praise? So am I, instead of trying to fear them into something, instead of trying to fact them nonstop into something, how about I start, using words of praise for them? Something like, wow, you are doing amazing. Look at the way that your gums are doing. Now, let's keep you on that track by doing a little bit more. So instead of going back and telling somebody something negative, doing something positive, and the same thing for a team member. Well, I really appreciate how you do this. And can you do this as well since you've done that so well? The next one is energy. So the energy is, a fist pump, a high five, and usually on the spontaneous celebration, any type of just really high energy. They really want to know that, wow, fantastic, that's so amazing. I'm so impressed by what's going on with you and what you've done. So we want to find out, are they responding to that? And if that's what they're responding to, we want to give more of what makes them feel good. The other one is authentic. So authentic is when service. And if anybody would ask me what is my language is definitely service. For me, is doing something kind, an act of service is when you, with your team member, when you find out, how can I help you? Do you need a ride home? I know that it's dangerous, nowadays or you might be concerned about taking the bus. This is what you're telling your team, not the patient. You might be worried about it. Can I give you a ride home? Can I arrange for an Uber to pick you up? This is definitely the one that does it for me. Acts of kindness. And even if it's not directed for me, even if it's directed for somebody else, you're definitely going to melt my heart when I see that you're being of service or helping other people. So find out, what is it that your patient is responding to. The other one is to receive and gifts. Some people like gifts. So I'm sure that a lot of you have heard that not all team members respond to, bonuses or, salary. Some people actually respond to something else, like a gift. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be of, I'm thinking of you. And with patients, the same thing. Find out, especially now, I know that sometimes a lot of offices, we tend to, not be too giving when it comes to toothpaste or toothbrushes, on and so forth. You also have to think that save some money during this time that the offices were closed. So there's stuff there that, ask them, is there somebody in your family that might need a toothbrush that they may not have one, and give us an extra one. Something that's not going to cost a lot, but it's that act. It's the act of giving that sometimes can, create the buy-in for your team or a patient. Time is quality time. There's patients that really, want that time, that one-on-one. They want to have that conversation with you, and make it about them. Spend that extra time. And if you already know, now doctors and officers have been around long enough that we know what our patients like. And if that patient requires a little bit more time, give them that extra time, because that's what's going to, solidify your relationships for the future. Meeting patients and teams where they are today, exceeding expectations and moving them forward towards lifetime of joy and real change. So Dr. Orton, one of the things that he talked about is creating real connection. And what he found was that he reframed these issues by initially helping patients identify the things they did enjoy in their lives, and then showing them that they could enjoy those things even more with less pain caused by their disease. Joy, Dr. Ines says, is a more powerful long-term motivator than fear. That is why he starts by framing the entire issue differently than the traditional physician. So that's one thing that I really want you to look at, is start framing things positive format, not in a negative format, not using trigger words, not using things that are fearful, are scary, that are facts. Don't bury your patient or your team in facts, but more of joy. What is it that, brings them joy, and how can we find more of it? And when we find, if those languages that we spoke of, find out which one of those is the one they speak, and give them more of that, so that, we can create some permanent change. So thank you so much for your attention. And if you want to get in contact with us, here is our website. There is our email. I'm so sorry. You're probably wondering, why is Angie stuttering so much? She doesn't use all the time. I'm functioning on very little sleep. I have a puppy. So my puppy is keeping me up. I forgot what puppies were like. I forgot that puppies wake up every 2 hours. So I'm almost like a new mom. So I apologize for my stuttering. Here's our phone number. We specialize in increasing patient flow, the new patients, increasing production, and we also do leadership training, and that's for small offices, large offices, DSOs, everything. And also, please follow us. I'm always putting tutorials, free information on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. That was amazing. Thank you. I just want to add something that you may want to add to your presentation about the love language. I respond to food. Food is a great motivator me.
She's not lying.
I
She's
was
not lying.
going to say that. I was going to say that when she said that find out what your team members like and do more of it, she knows what I like. So she feeds me all the time.
Right.
She feeds me all the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I can vouch for that.
It's the greatest motivator I find. And I actually wanted to ask you. I saved this because I wanted to uh, pick in and what your thoughts on this. This is actually I came across Instagram, not a local office, but I just wanted to ask thoughts on what they're doing here. So they say here, when you step through our door, be assured that our office is one of the safest and most sanitized spaces you can be in. We are uniquely trained to work with patients who carry diseases like the flu, HIV, herpes, the common cold, and so many others. Our acute level of training makes us masters of clean, no matter what pandemic is thrown our way. More about how we keep it clean, just give us a call. We're so excited and see you. What are your thoughts on that? On what they're addressing? You're muted, Angie.
Sorry. I think that everything. It's the Royal College. It has such a hold, on us, and we all know that. We've all tried to say, I'm the best. There's no pain. We're the office with this. We're the office with that. So I think that we're walking a very fine line when we're saying that our office does anything better than any office. And I don't think that it's so much, the Royal College that it's their intentions to do that, but it's the people that call in to complain. It's the other doctors that call in, complain, and say, wait a minute, we're doing that too. Why are you saying that you're the best at? We're just as good. So I think that that's a fine line.
Mm-hmm. But what do you make out of those trigger words that they see? We have herpes, we can see you. If you have a HIV, we can see you. Like, what are your thoughts on that? When they're using specifically that.
Well, I say this. Always put yourself in the situation. If you went to, let's say that you were picking a salon. I'm going to talk to the girls right now, and then I'll talk to the guys. So let's talk to the girls right now. Let's say that you were trying to pick a salon, and you have, you're looking out there, you're new in the city, and you're seeing, and somebody puts out an ad saying, you can come here because, we're specialized in taking care of lice. We specialize in taking care of patients, of people that have infectious diseases on their scalp. We specialize on, taking care of people that have all kinds of situations that may be contagious. But don't worry, we take care of them here. Would you want to go to the salon? Right, Sula? I see Sula saying, nope, I wouldn't want to go there.
Nope.
I just think that what you just read out, Elaine, to me there was too many, like Angie said, the trigger words were a little too negative, and honestly, it's getting a little too medical. And the average patient doesn't want to hear about all that. Just talk to me about how you're going to care for me. What I get from patients when I speak with them is that they know that we take care of the, sterilizing the area. They don't need to hear about it. I think they want to hear about more the care that you're going to give for them. And like Angie said, allow them to tell you their story. I do have a question though, Angie, maybe you could answer this. How do you feel about, because this is somewhere like my thoughts are positive on this, but maybe I'm not thinking correctly. How do you feel about reaching out to patients once we're allowed to open by email and just basically saying, we're open, we're here for you. These are the steps and measures we have taken because, and I'll tell you why what my thinking is behind that is because I don't want people to walk in, especially some of the older European patients in a particular area, walk in and see everybody masked, and like I don't want them to get feared when they walk in. So I want to kind of prepare them a little that there are some changes in the office. You're going to notice us wearing this, that, maybe even send a little picture and just say, but please don't allow that to scare you. This is for the staff's protection as well as yours. We are still the same person. We are like this. You're still seeing the same hygienist. Again, this one location in particular, there's a high number of seniors. Okay, which the screening is going to become even harder because some of them even are in senior homes and they're bused to that location. So yeah, that's a whole different story. But how do you feel about that?
So may I offer you an orienting comment?
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing is that when everything you said is actually, I love it. I love it that you're putting it on a positive spin. The only thing that you might want to eliminate is the but. I always encourage everybody to eliminate the word but, because every time we say but, it nullifies everything that we said before.
Okay.
So we want to say and. So I love everything, and I would just replace it with and we're doing this and this. So yes, definitely, and that's why I had said, that I encourage doctors to pick up the phone and start calling their patients. This is the time. Like, what else do you have to do? Seriously, unless you're doing tons and tons of webinars. But this is the time to call your patients. Just say, I'm just calling to see how you're doing. Are you okay? Is everything okay? Please know that we're still here for you. Please. And if you're not taking emergencies, have a number for them to call. We all have, a lot of doctors have colleagues that are their friends that they know they are taking emergencies, and say, here's a number. Call my buddy so-and-so or my friend so-and-so, and I will let them know that you're coming to take care of you. So it's about building relationships, like you said. It's not about, getting more patients in and just, next. It's about building relationships. And the only way that we can build relationships is by being positive, like you said. And yes, absolutely. Pick up that phone and let them know. Let them know that there's going to be, some changes, and to not let that scare them, that you're doing that for their own good, for their own protection, because you care for them.
Right. And that's,
did I answer your question?
Yes, that's excellent. We are having the girls come in a week prior to whenever we know we're opening, a week prior, to make those calls, especially now in between. Right now, I'm actually calling patients that, and I think I mentioned that in my presentation too, that are about 60 and up, because a lot of them don't have the internet as well, like you said, right? I'm sure there's even younger ones that don't, but however, that's what I'm focusing on. And I just call them and say, how are you? Is everything okay? And you'd be surprised. I'll call them from home. I'm working from home. I'll do certain tasks. I have people, or if I leave a message, they'll call me back. And I had a lady that called me 3 days in a row. Oh, hi. And I thought, oh no, maybe I've made a mistake. She's kept my number. But she just wanted to talk. It's so funny. She just wanted to talk. She randomly would say, I was thinking about that appointment. Do you have anything else earlier that day? So I move it earlier. No problem. Don't worry about it. Everything's good. Then she'd call me back. If you do go back sooner, could you call me, put me on the list? Like, it's so funny. I have yet to speak to a patient that says, I'm scared to come in. No one's saying that. Everyone's saying, when are you opening?
You hit it right on the nail. Exactly. We're making assumptions.
Yes.
We're making assumptions, but not until we actually speak to these patients will we have facts. And how can we have facts if we don't, take the time to find out these facts? because they, so far from what I've been listening to as well, patients are, my husband has been calling his dentist, I don't know, constantly, because he has a veneer on his front tooth. No, it's a crown. Sorry, it's a crown on his front tooth, and it keeps falling off. And of course, sometimes, when he pisses me off, I make ribs, so or chicken wings or stuff like that, just so I can laugh how he falls off. No, I'm just kidding. I keep telling them to stop biting into things. I'm like, cut it into bite sizes, but it keeps falling off. And he called her, and it has taken her weeks to respond. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, she's doing the exact opposite that I would ever recommend anything to anybody to do.
Yes, I do have a couple of, I like the fact that you said dentists should pick up the phone, but honestly, the ones that I've worked with, like, no one, it's like their staff will pick up the phone, which is great. It's okay. Somebody's there to pick it up or to make the calls. But I love the message that you're putting out there, because so many people, and you're just connected with so many dentists, and I hope they're listening to you. And I want you to keep calling them, because I don't know as many people as you do, but if I did, I would constantly put that out there, because everyone's in a panic. And when everything kind of gets back, the patients are waiting. And I think once that starts, the doctors, the dentists will get that comfort again and, move forward. But I like your message, and I hope, just keep putting it out there. Really, you're helping so many other ones like me by you putting it out there.
And I think that, this is the time. I don't see this, out of everything bad, something good comes out. And if nothing else, this is the time where patients are listening. This is the time where you start talking to patients about systemic, infections and bacteria, and why you need to get, to get your teeth, done, your scalings done, your cleanings done, your everything done, so that you can avoid diabetes and everything else, which now makes you susceptible to this disease. So if any time before they were sitting there and they would just get this blank look on their face when the hygienist would start talking, now they're listening. So let's take advantage of that. Palak, you were trying to say something, but you were on mute. So all we saw was your mouth moving.
And no, when Sula said that, they're not picking up phones or their staff is picking up, in my head, I was like, at least somebody's picking up.
Yeah.
Because from all the calls that, we made initially when this whole pandemic started, no dental office was picking up their phones. And I called over 15 dental offices, and not one picked up, not one.
Wow.
There was no voicemail. It was just a blank ring.
Well, I can tell you what's happening in our office. Of course, everybody's at home, and so there's nobody at the office to pick up the phone. But Callie gets back to them immediately, gets replacement straps mailed out to them, answers their questions right away. And I see the email correspondence that goes back and forth between Callie and the patients, and they are so thankful. And always acknowledge that, thanks for getting back to me so quickly. Thanks for taking care of this right away. They always acknowledge that. And these patients, although we're not there physically, won't forget that. And we'll stay loyal to. So this is really what's needed. You need to have a good, you got a receptionist, administrative staff, whatever the appropriate term is, that person can be doing that very same thing from home, because this is the way Callie would be handling it if she was at the office. She's just in a different location. The difference is that if we have to mail out replacement straps or something like that, then she'll tell the patient, I'm going into the office on Wednesday, and I'll mail it out to you, right? So the patient at least knows they've been tended to, got back to, and they know that there's going to be something mailed out to them, So, this is very doable. I can't imagine it would be different in a general dental practice. aside from the fact that, the taking care of the emergency in the office thing, of course, that would be, it's a different kettle of fish altogether.
I have another question for you, Angie, if you don't mind. We've got time, right? So just a quick little question.
Go for it.
So I put together the Zoom calls for all the staff, right? And then the associate and the owner and they could jump on, but if not, I just lead a very friendly conversation and I allow them all to speak. I worry about the hygienists. And so I call them out, like I'll call on one and the other and just kind of say, so how you really, like, how you feeling? Like what? Finally, I had one say, you know what? Like, cause they're all like, oh, okay, like this, right? So finally I had one that actually spoke out and said, I'm anxious. Like I'm anxious and I'm worried. And I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years. I want to come back. I'm just so anxious and I know we're going to go through and have all the right protocols in hand, right? And we're going to have our PPEs, everything before we come back, but it still makes me anxious. So I'm like, oh, thank God somebody finally said something, right? Because I want to break through, because I want people to come in and be real and open and ready. So I was thinking, and I want your opinion, and it's just my mind works this way. I was going to invite a friend that's like he's an emotional spiritual healer, and I listen to him through my women's group, the Hub Inc. And I just think he's amazing. And he basically talks a lot about what you were saying, the emotional parts and the different stages. And as you went through all those, he's spoken about this, but he still feels that once we all get back, maybe 6 months later, we'll start seeing people actually realize what they've been through. So they might still kind of put up. So I don't know. What do you think of the idea of welcoming, like bringing him through? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's going to go through PTSD. They are going to go through that. And not everybody. And I think that the ones that will go through it are the ones that didn't deal with the emotion while it was happening. So, and know that a lot of times too, that people won't necessarily share what they're going through because they don't feel it's a safe space. People have to be in that space of being ready to share. Not everybody's ready to share. Not everybody's is ready to be vulnerable and put it out there. Some people it's something that it's an emotion for them that they don't necessarily want to share with all their teammates. So if you feel that, I think that that's the part where we need to be a little more sensitive or just, really keep an eye for those that you feel, that person seems a little more quiet, and just reach out to them privately, because not everybody is going to be willing to come out in front of their teams. We have a lot of people that emotion is a very personal thing.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, happy to help.
Anybody would like to add anything else, Dr. V?
No, that was very interesting. That was great. Yeah, it's noon now. If nobody else has any questions, I'm just going to ask Angie and Elaine to stick around for a couple minutes once we say bye to everybody. But yeah. I'll let you make the closing remarks.
Yeah. Thank you so much for everybody who came today. Next week we're going to have Dr. Uti Odiatu. He's a pretty well-known speaker. I think that everybody has heard of him, if not attend one of his years. So I'm going to be posting about it, and if you want to invite people, please feel free. It's the same link every week. So I'm really excited about that. And well, anyone else to say something? Thank you so
Angie.
much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Angie.
So cute. So cute.
He's so cute. He's so adorable.